Good morning everybody, welcome back to another live performance kitchen. It's lovely to see you all coming in. Morning Sally, morning everybody, fantastic. Hope you've all had a really good week. Hope you're all excited, we're getting a bit more likes, that always makes me happier, always makes me feel a little bit more like exercising, so I'm sure all you runners are the same out there. I'm excited today because we're doing banana bread, and I know I post on Insta what is the difference between banana bread and banana cake, and I know you're all obviously dying to know the answer. The difference between a banana bread and banana cake are two things. Number one, banana bread is denser, and number two, there's no icing. Okay, so now you can all sleep well in your beds tonight knowing that. Why does that make me excited? Well, because as far as I'm concerned, they both taste identical, or certainly my banana bread tastes like a banana cake. So hopefully after today, you can get rid of your banana cake recipes, you can replace it with this banana bread, and you can use it throughout the day, really, really versatile, as you know me, and not feel guilty about enjoying it, okay? So I can see you all coming in. Those of you that are cooking with me this morning, it's our oven time, so we're looking at 350. It's a low oven today. 350, I think that's around gas mark 4, and about 170. Let me just check my Celsius on that for you. At 175. Okay, let's put our ovens on and prepare. Really excited because I'm doing absolutely no whisking, no whizzy implements, nothing noisy. We're literally using 2 bowls and a couple of spoons. You know I love that. So, dead simple. Start with a smaller of your 2 bowls, okay? This one. We're going to do our wet ingredients first. Now, 2 eggs. As always, I'm going to have to show off here, I'm using my own chicken's eggs, okay? But if you don't have chickens, you don't live next door to me, in which case I'll give you some, then obviously if you can, free range chickens. They're fed a better diet. The eggs subsequently have greater nutrients, so if possible, free range. And there's not very much difference in price anymore. Give those just a little bit of a whisk. We don't have to be too bothered by that. Quick whisk of your eggs. Okay, now to that, this is quite a wet recipe because we want it to be that lovely moist banana bread that we all love. We don't want anything dry and crumbly here. We are going to add some fabulous ingredients. The first of which is olive oil. So what we've done here is we've replaced butter. Now butter is traditionally used in a banana cake, banana bread recipe. The problem with butter is we eat too much of it. It's very high in fats that can turn trans when we bake them. And effectively olive oil, as we know from our Mediterranean friends, is much healthier for us. So there's not a huge amount. I know olive oil is expensive, but it's 60 mils. And we're just going to pour that straight in over our beaten eggs. Ta-da! The elixir of healthier sugars. Maple syrup. Maple syrup. You can use honey if maple syrup offends you, but can I suggest in this recipe, because I want that really rich, robust, sweet flavours to come through, maple syrup will give you a more robust flavouring, and it works really, really, really well with the bananas and the walnuts. So if it's a little bit pricier, but if you have no preference and you've got some in your cupboard, on this recipe, please will you use your maple syrup. We're just going to pour that in. So there we go. We've got our eggs, we've got our olive oil, we've got our maple syrup. Maple syrup, much better than sugar. It's a natural form of sugar. It's sweeter. So we use far less of it than we need of sugar to get the same sugar hit that we all look for. And there is some evidence to suggest it's going to control our blood glucose levels better than if we use your shop bought standard bags of white sugar. Okay, next. I'm using this a lot at the moment, and I hope you don't mind because it is doing you all loads of benefits. I'm going with plain yogurt. It can be plain yogurt, it can be Greek yogurt. And we're just using this. It's also there for the sort of moistness. A lot of recipes in cakes, they add milk and stuff, but actually this will make your bread last longer, be moister, and it's higher in protein. So we're going to go for 2 tablespoons, straight in. Voila. And again, just with a fork, in we go, done. Okay, now, banana time. Bananas, one of my favourites. I mean, if there was one food for an athlete, I think the banana would be high up there. It is a brilliant form of carbohydrate. So in terms of pre-exercise, this is the go-to for most athletes, certainly you runners, just before you run. Really easy for our body to break down and start to use straight away as an energy source. Really good source of potassium, which will help us when we're running to stop those awful muscle cramps and those stitches that you guys suffer from all the time, and really good in recovery, just to help our muscles repair, and again, just to avoid those horrible muscle cramps and stitches. So I've gone for 3 because mine are quite small. Okay, clearly if you've got giant bananas, choose accordingly. It is quite important, by the way, 2 things: the size of your bananas and also how old they are. They are about a week old, okay? If they're brown, it doesn't matter the skin, because the less ripe, the more ripe they are, the better, basically. And it'll make this job much easier. We're gonna mash. So just get back of the fork, just give those bananas a mash, break them down. Again, we don't need to worry if there's a few bits. First of all, they'll break down in the cooking process. And secondly, it's just adding texture. And we're using bananas in banana bread for 2 reasons. Number 1, and most importantly, the sweetness. We've taken away loads of sugar in most cake recipes, and we've replaced it with the banana sweetness. 2, flavour. Obviously, if you like the flavour of banana, it works really well in breads and cakes. And number 3, for structure. In terms of as a structure, you can see there, it's actually going to support the bread and give it its structure. So it's quite important that we work to similar measures. So 2 to 3 bananas, depending on their size. Okay, in it goes. Now at this stage, you think you've gone wrong, because basically it looks like a lumpy, weird sort of batter, and you're like, that's never going to make a pretty cake, Justine. What are you doing with us this morning? Well, don't worry, because I've made one earlier, as you know, and it looked just like this. So just that nice batter there. Okay, now let's move on to the dry ingredients. I have given so many options on this because I'm really conscious that we can have banana bread for breakfast, we can have it as a running snack, we can have it post-run, we can have it in the evening. And so subsequently, you know me, I'm always going to say, well, what we need to do, if we're going to have it here and there, is do this. So if you're having it just before a run, I want you to use white flour. And the reason for that is, as many of you now know who come into me at my kitchen every Saturday morning, is because it's a refined carbohydrate, which means it breaks down super quick, and we use the energy from it really, really quickly within about the first 60 to 100 minutes. So it's really important. And also, it doesn't have any impact on our GI system, so we don't spend ages trying to digest it and bloat, etc. However, if we want to use it post-exercise, I would rather you go for a more complex carbohydrate like wholemeal flour, or there's so many different options out there nowadays, and you guys will all have preferences, whether it be buckwheat, whether it be coconut flour, whether we use oats. So for the one I've made earlier, I've gone plain flour. I'm going to show you that in a minute. So for this one, just to show how versatile it is, I'm going to use 120 grams, that's half of the amounts we need, 120 grams of wholemeal flour. I've said to sift, don't always, but on this occasion, as I'm showing you guys, wholemeal flour, okay, just raise it high. The reason we raise it high, obviously, is to get air in, and the reason we get air in is because we want it to be tall, we want it to be light and fluffy when it grows in the oven, so we get all of our air in now, okay? Because it's wholemeal, we're inevitably going to get bits at the end that don't want to go through the sieve, and I'm very comfortable with you tipping it in, just like that, okay? Now, I've given an option, half flour and half either ground almond or rolled oats. The ground almonds, great source of protein, so really good obviously afterwards, and also to add flavour and wonderful texture, or rolled oats. Now what I didn't say, and what I researched quite recently, is that you can actually toast your oats before you put them in, and that brings out more of that lovely rich toasted gorgeous flavours that you get from flapjacks and things. So I've roasted mine today, which is the same temperature oven, 350, 10 minutes. And it's going to give that lovely moorish sort of flavour that we all love from a flapjack. So 120 grams of oats in. All right, simple as that. Now, flavouring. Always a fan of adding something in there just to get your taste buds going. So we've gone banana as our main recipe ingredient here for flavour. So what works well with banana? You're all going to have different ideas, but effectively for me it's along the lines of ginger, cinnamon and mixed spice. But you can obviously play around. I'm going to go for mixed spice. I put cinnamon in the one I've made earlier, but again, choose whichever flavours that you personally like. And it's 1 teaspoon and we just throw it straight in. Last 2 ingredients are the baking powder and the baking soda, bicarb of soda, and they're just raising agents effectively so that we get a nice rise on our bread. So pop them in, and then we're literally just going to stir these ingredients through. Hopefully those of you that are cooking with me this morning are keeping up. I know I had a few messages saying you go very fast, when did your eggs go in? So I'm doing it at a nice slow pace this morning for you all. All right, just fold that through for me. I just love that smell. I've got the toasted oats, I've got that gorgeous mixed spice. I know it's going to work really well with the banana. Done. All right, now, couldn't get much more simple than this. We're just going to add our wet batter ingredients to our dry ingredients. Pour it in, enjoy it. Cooking should be enjoyed or we stop doing it. So this is like one of those things because it's so easy, so enjoyable. We're using a couple of bowls and we're just basically having fun. Fold it in. Remember that we had the sieve out before to get all the air to go in, so don't go knocking it all out now by bashing it around as quickly as you can. Fold it in, figure of 8 if you remember, lift your spoon up. Hopefully you can all see that. And just combine so you can't see any more loose flour. Okay, now what can we add to a banana bread? Well, if we think about so far what we've used really good form of complex carbohydrate in the rolled oats and the wholemeal flour. So tick for our complex carbohydrate, our fuel source. Second fuel source to fuel us, to fill us up, to satiate us, our bananas. We've used 3 of them. They've also got the potassium in. We've gone for some lovely natural mixed spice there just to give it some flavour, etc. And we've gone with maple syrup as opposed to horrible shop-bought white sugar that's going to give us not only the sweetness but another source of energy. Then the humble walnuts. Walnuts obviously there first of all for flavour, so walnuts and banana work brilliantly together. All nuts are not the same. All nuts are great sources of protein, all nuts are good sources of fats, but walnuts are a fantastic source of omega-3 fats, which is really important for our brain function and our brain health. So let's not discount the importance of that. Number 2, it is packed with magnesium. And that's really, really good. A little bit like the potassium for runners, particularly we lose it when we sweat, and it's really important for our muscles to stop them from cramping and stitching and help them to recover after we've exercised and used them. So that's really, really important. You don't need too much either. They're really, really, really high in these micronutrients. So when we say about 2 to 3, maybe 4 a day to really complete that, perfect. And obviously you're getting it in other fruits and vegetables as well. Antioxidants mop up all the horrible chemicals and free radicals in our body and make us effectively operate better. One of the best in the world. So in terms of dietary foods, walnuts are packed with antioxidants. So they don't only taste great, but they're really good for us. So please just put them in and enjoy your nuts. I know that they're high in fat. We all know they're high in fat, but they're high in good fats, and we're literally using, I said a handful. Okay, it's about 30 grams for those of you who want to weigh, and I've just given them a bit of a crush. I like them quite whole. One thing I often say to my athletes is you won't be fully satiated until your body's had lots of, brains had lots of different textures. So if you just ate porridge all day, you'd never really feel fully satiated. It likes crunch, it likes smooth, it likes texture, it likes everything. So that's also got the texture, it's got some crunch in, so don't completely batter it to a powder. Okay, so that's your walnuts. If you hate the taste of walnuts, please just choose something like an almond. Almonds are really, really good for you as well. Or any other nut that pecans that would work really well as well. I've got lots of options. You can go for your frozen berries if you like the idea of throwing some blueberries in. You can go for, okay, chocolate chips are really good in this, but let's do them before we run, ideally. Or, if you're anything like me, you make your own raisins. I'm not suggesting you have to make your own. I've told you before though, if you want to make your own, get some grapes that are too old that you want to eat them, put them in an oven, as low as your oven will go, so literally like 170 Fahrenheit, and you can leave them. Please check for me. I might leave mine overnight, but I'm really used to making them. I don't suggest that to start with. About 6 or 7 hours, and you end up with raisins. And they're much better than the plasticky things you buy in the shop, and they're much fresher, so they've got loads more in them. So I'm going to throw in a couple of handfuls of my homemade raisins, okay? So again, it could be sultanas, it could be any form of dried fruit or frozen fruit. You can use fresh fruit. It's just that when we're cooking it, you know, the frozen fruits, it tends to be cheaper, and so it works just as well in this. Right, let's put it in our case. That's it. We've made our banana bread. I mean, it has to cook, of course, but it is that simple to make. And what I want to do is talk you through how you use this now. So banana bread is, please think of it as a bread rather than cake. So for breakfast, you could have this banana bread, and you can slice it and just eat it straight from the oven. Beautiful. Or you could put some almond butter on top of it. You could put some Greek yogurt and maybe some fresh sliced strawberries, etc. on top of it. You could drizzle it with a tiny bit of honey. If I'm honest with you, if I've had it in the fridge for a few days and it's not maybe a week and it's not quite as fresh, as I slice it and toast it. And I might put a tiny bit of butter on top. But anyway, that's down to preference. But my point being is this is absolutely perfect and healthy as a breakfast. So don't think of it as a cake. Then, of course, I've already said, as a pre-exercise snack, it is so portable. So what you can do is when you've baked it, let it cool down first, and then you can slice it, wrap each slice in some baking paper, some cling film or whatever. If you've got little individual tubs you want to use, fine. Freeze them, just freeze it in slices, and then literally take it out maybe an hour before you want to eat the slice. Take it with you, leave it in your kit bag, your running bag, your car. Have it after your run as your post-recovery. You've got your proteins in there. So it really is something you can be using at any stage. And obviously just as a healthy snack, it's something you can give whole family. So please don't think of this as a cake. This is banana bread. So it's full of goodies. Right, we've got it, it's all ready. It's going in the oven. Mine's ready to go. Those of you cooking with me, is yours ready to go? Now, we can decorate. There's all different ways we can decorate. I'm going to be a bit fancy, because I fancy being fancy today. And I'm going to put it on top, just a little bit more banana. Slice my banana down lengthways. I'm going to show it you. Okay. Et voila. And then just squish it onto the top. And then what happens now, it's going to bake at 350, so your banana won't burn. But any of you are used to having those wonderful banana chips that they put in certain granolas, and that lovely like caramelizing that happens to bananas. That's what's going to happen to the top of these. So it's just adding an extra flavor, a different type of banana flavor, and it also looks a bit fancy. So again, you could crumble over some more walnuts, or if you're using your chocolate chips, just dribble them on top, and it will just create lovely effects when it's baked. Have fun with your banana bread. Let's put this in. Let's have a look at the one I made earlier. Guys, just to remind you as well, when we're baking, we use the middle center of the oven. Or for this one, because it's going to go in for around about 50 minutes, the lower end of the oven, depending if you've got a super efficient oven, then maybe just a tiny bit lower. When we know it's ready is when a skewer inserted into the center of the cake comes out clean. So just pick a wooden skewer, whatever, or whatever device you've got that's similar, and just into the center. I'll show you on the one I've made. Okay, this is how it comes out. Okay, I'm going to lift it out of its little case in a moment, but just straight in and make sure it comes out clean. You'll know clearly if it's not ready when you press on the top as well, it goes all wobbly. That means leave it back in there. This one took about 50 minutes in my oven. Because I'm using rolled oats, wholemeal flour, it might take a bit longer, blah, blah, blah. So do check on it, but it could take up to an hour, so don't worry if it does. Right, let's slice it, let's have a look what's going on here. So, does it look like the sort of thing that you want to eat at breakfast, at lunch, pre and post? Let me get a proper knife that can cut that. Okay, let's have a little cut through. And I'm going to lift it up to camera. Okay, So effectively, anybody out there who says they're not interested in a slice of that as a healthy option to a cake is lying. It is literally, it smells amazing, it cuts perfectly. Imagine putting a couple of them in for your pre-run, knowing you're doing your body good, knowing that you're fueling it, knowing it's packed full of goodies rather than the shop-bought versions, rather than the heavily iced, heavily sugared, heavily buttered versions of this cake or this bread, versus this. It's taken 15 minutes. It's going to be ready in an hour. Your house is going to smell of bananas for the rest of the day. You're going to have it in the freezer or keep it in the fridge for a week. The whole family will eat this. It'll go today, but it takes no time to make. And I'm promising you, these small little incremental changes in the way you guys see foods and cook foods or appreciate foods make massive differences to you all in the future. Really hope you've enjoyed cooking with me today. I've loved doing it. We're going to have some fun next week. I'm seeing this wonderful weather coming in, and I'm thinking I'd like to share with you my 3 top salads. So these are really quite fun salads, a little bit different, things that you can have alongside your meat, your fish, maybe in the day on their own. We're going to be really, really versatile. We're going to use loads of really fun, healthy, gorgeous ingredients. I did one last night for my family, just to sort of like, you know, run up. I'm not going to share too much with you, and I didn't tell them what was in it until they'd all thoroughly enjoyed it, but I think you're going to enjoy it. So I'm really excited to be sharing that one with you next week. As always, please send me your photographs. I love seeing them all. I get so excited when everything pings and you're all sending me through muffins and, you know, whatever, Thai curries, whatever we've done in the past. It really is important to me to know that you guys genuinely are happy when you've cooked them and you love the taste of them, and I know that they're going to be part of the recipe, your recipe cards for the rest of your lives as well. So thank you so much for all joining me. Have a fabulous rest of your weekend. Enjoy next week. I'll look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Take care.